What if the greatest financial lie of the modern world is not inflation, not taxes, and not corruption, but the belief that governments actually want to repay their debt? Because from childhood we are taught that debt is dangerous and must be eliminated as soon as possible. Families budget to escape it, individuals sacrifice to clear it, and businesses restructure to avoid it. Yet governments openly do the opposite by celebrating record debt, borrowing endlessly, even during good times, and refinancing old loans without urgency, creating a contradiction that most people never question. And if debt is truly harmful, then why does the global system punish countries that attempt to reduce or eliminate it? And if repayment is responsible, then why does repayment often trigger economic collapse? Because the answer is buried beneath complex economic language and requires stepping back into history when debt meant weakness and loss of sovereignty, when ancient rulers feared owing money because creditors held power over them, when Roman debt sparked revolts and medieval defaults led to thrones being lost, when money was tangible in gold, silver, land, and labor, making debt temporary and repayment a sign of strength. Until this mindset collapsed with modern warfare, as wars grew too expensive for taxes alone and governments turned to bankers, culminating in the creation of institutions like the Bank of England in 1694, where a new deal was born that replaced repayment with perpetual interest, transforming debt from a burden into a permanent instrument of power, allowing governments to fund wars and expansion without immediate backlash, delay costs into the future, and shift the burden onto generations that never voted for it. While creditors gained leverage and markets began disciplining governments, slowly shifting policy away from citizens and toward investors, until government bonds became the foundation of the modern financial system itself, relied upon by banks, pension funds, and central banks as safe collateral, making full repayment not just unlikely but dangerous, because eliminating debt would destabilize the entire system, creating a paradox where debt is both feared and essential. And as debt grew beyond any realistic ability to repay, governments did not choose responsibility, but instead chose alternatives like inflation, which silently reduces the real value of debt while eroding savings and purchasing power. Currency devaluation, which makes citizens poorer while easing state obligations. Rare and painful defaults that destroy credibility. And financial repression that traps savings and forces institutions to absorb debt, all while repayment is carefully avoided. Even when governments pretend discipline through austerity, cutting spending and raising taxes, growth slows, revenues fall, and debt ratios worsen, as seen repeatedly in countries like Greece, till borrowing resumes under new justifications. And today global debt has reached levels once considered impossible, while markets remain calm. Because permanence is assumed, because debt fuels modern power, hierarchy, and geopolitical dominance, because repaying it would dismantle control mechanisms and destabilize financial structures, because debt is not meant to end but to be managed, rolled over, inflated away, and silently paid for by citizens through higher prices, weaker currencies, and reduced freedom, revealing that government debt is not a failure of discipline, but a feature of design, serving systems rather than people, and the real danger is not debt itself, but ignorance of its purpose. Because in a world built on permanent debt, understanding the system is the first step toward freedom.